Coulter, I was in Bozeman for the Bobcat game a couple of weeks ago, and while I was there, I went over to the corner of Jackrabbit and Baxter and headed into the brand-new Cathedral of Guns, Selway Armory. It was absolutely phenomenal. Their new store in Bozeman is everything you want and more, including a Sig Sauer store right in the Selway Armory store.
Got some confusion from a couple people listening to this podcast. They said, what is Sig Sauer? And they spelled it like cigarette. But no, we're talking Sig Sauer like Sigsaeur. Some of the best handguns you'll find anywhere. They're experts when it comes to Sig Sauers, as well as all other handguns, as well as all other firearms. Locations of both Missoula and Bozeman. But get your butt to that new Bozeman store. It's a beautiful store, unbelievable inventory, and those guys are experts. They'll help you find whatever it is you need.
Hunting season, recreation, we all have people on our Christmas list, or maybe it's you yourself. Yes, I must say, once in a while it's nice to get your own self a present. You go in there, all of the guns, ammunition, accessories that you could imagine, and Coulter, as you mentioned, absolute experts. They know everything there is to know about the entire inventory they've got. Online, SelwayArmory.com. Montana is a gun enthusiast state. It's a hunting state. And Selway Armory is Montana's firearm superstore.
Take the Selway Armory Challenge. Shop with Selway Armory for a year. Guarantee you're going to save money over the big box stores or anywhere else you might shop. Do yourself a favor. No matter where you're from in Montana, if you're making your way through southwest Montana, go see that new Selway Armory. And if you're in Missoula, go check out their location out Stockyard Road. Selway Armory, great products at a great price, along with world-class customer service.
So anyway, it's good to be back. That means we're still playing football. We're one of 8 teams in the country at the FCS level. Every single team in this tournament at this point is a really good football team. And we got a short week to prepare, so I'll be kind of direct and to the point, talking about the Albany game. Really proud of the way our guys adjusted throughout the course of the game. So there's no question that they were bound and determined to not let us run the ball for almost 400 yards, and like we did 2 weeks ago, or I guess 3 weeks ago now, and I really thought they had a great scheme against our run game, and we were forced to go to some things that maybe isn't what we highlight in our offense on a week-to-week basis, but Tucker Rovig operated it. I mean, he threw the ball very, very well. Really, I think, showed a lot of poise and confidence in his receivers, and whether that was Lance or Travis or Kevin making plays down the field, and obviously that loosened things up, and then we're ready to go. And then defensively, probably one of the most critical series in the game was after we had the field goal blocked. Number one, Tristan Bailey keeping them out of the end zone. And that's a very underrated play in that game. And then number two, our ability to keep them off the scoreboard. And that had to be demoralizing. They finally had a momentum-creating play for them, and we're set up in the red zone with an opportunity to kind of get back in the game and for our defense to stiffen the way they did after Tristan made that really pretty amazing play for a kicker to track a guy down like that and get that guy on the ground. And I just thought that was huge. Obviously, the takeaways, I'll tell you who's playing at a really high level. And the last 2 weeks are the two best. The last 2 times that Damian Washington's had a chance to go on the field have been his 2 best games. And, he mentioned that after the Montana game that I think it was Coach Halk actually came up and said, you played really well today, because I think they liked the matchup, or at least they probably thought they would like the matchup with Torrey on Damian. And certainly that was the case on Saturday as well. They were going to go after him a little bit, and I thought he held up extremely well. And so, just a complete team win there. And now we got to have a short memory. That's behind us. And moving on to Austin Peay University, Mark Hudspeth, who's a guy that's been a Division I head coach at University of Louisiana Lafayette, was a very successful coach there. In fact, I'm kind of scratching my head as to why they made a change, but he had a really good run there and really was critical in them kind of taking the next step in their program, building some new facilities, got to multiple bowl games, has a really good reputation as an offensive football coach, spent some time in the SEC at Mississippi State, and has really kind of invigorated and revitalized this Austin Peay program. I think there's certainly a renewed emphasis on football there. You can see that. I mean, this is a team that was playing in the Pioneer League not too long ago, so they were a non-scholarship FCS program, stepping up into the Ohio Valley Conference and in a short time winning that league. A very good football coach, very good football team. They got an identity. They're a hard team to prepare for. I kind of feel the pain of maybe some teams that have to prepare for us, because there's a lot of similarities in what they do and what we do on the offensive side of the ball. A lot of variety to their run game. A lot of different formations, a lot of different people handling the ball, and you can get your eyes mixed up in a hurry, and it can be very, very challenging. And when you combine that with the level of personnel that they have, I think it's interesting. I mean, they're number 12 scoring offense in the country, and then number 20 total offense in the country. Number 3, the Craig kid, obviously the guy that makes the whole thing go. And he's got a couple of really good targets in number 2 and number 11 down the field that he really kind of prioritizes in the pass game, but they get everything going through him. With the +1 run game, they have what we call punch read or power read with the quarterback as a play that's an interesting. A lot of it kind of is triple option-esque. And even though it's not maybe what you think of as triple option, there's always options within the play, if that makes sense. And I think that Craig does a really good job running that. I mean, this guy's accounted for 36 touchdowns. He's thrown for over 3,000 yards, rushed for over 800 yards. That's a big-time player right there. And he's a big kid who's a tough tackle. He's not a guy that's easy to get on the ground, so we're going to have to do a really good job of playing with disciplined eyes. They run a couple of different running backs. Number 5, Williams, kind of their primary back, and number 4, Mamadou, the guy that has kind of taken over. Number 21's a really good back, too, but they're all about the same size. They're kind of that 5'10", 5'11", 200, 205 pound, kind of your conventional running back size at our level. Very productive players. Already mentioned the Williams kid. I think he's excellent, not just as a receiver, number 11 that is, but also as a punt returner, really dynamic player. And then the Hardy kid, number 2. So those guys are really good players on that side of the ball. That's kind of the playmakers that we're going to have to concern ourselves with. But the most challenging thing is really what they present to you in terms of the scheme. Very creative, a wide variety, as I said, in the run game. Defensively, they're 11th in total defense and number 7 in rushing defense, giving up less than 100 yards a game rushing. And so this is going to be, a very interesting matchup from that perspective, I think. And I think they are very stout and hard to move on the interior of their defensive line. I really like their inside linebackers. Number 10 and number 18 are faster, more athletic, maybe not as big as some of the guys that we've played in recent weeks, but they're faster and more athletic. And I think that's probably a theme that you'll see throughout this. I do think, last week I felt like there was a little bit of a team speed advantage over Albany between us and Albany, and I don't think that exists this week. I think that this team has very good team speed. And so, like I said, their interior D-line, 44-90, these guys are – you got to nose who's got 7.5 sacks. And he's twitchy. And so they present some problems for you there. I mentioned the athletic linebackers and then the active DBs. I think the Jackson kid has 7 interceptions on the year. And so, obviously, they've got some guys that are good. Special teams, creative, a lot of different things to prepare for. You saw the surprise onside kick last week against Sac State. That's something that they've done another time in the course of the season. They will run fakes on punt. They will run fakes on extra points and field goals. They've got dynamic return men in number 2 and number 11, and they'll put number 5 back there from time to time. So they play starters in the kicking game. But I think that's really the identity that I see for this whole team is just really they play fast, they're aggressive, and they're creative in terms of how they attack the opponent. And so with that being said, I'm happy to take any questions.
How does the short week affect preparation, do you think?
I've done this a lot, not in recent years, but I've done this a lot. And when we worked at Boise State, we played every night of the week. And so all you did was you just kind of trained yourself like, this isn't really Monday to me, this is Tuesday. Okay, and so now we had to make a decision yesterday as to whether we were going to treat Sunday like Monday, and we chose not to. We felt like with finals, that's the other curveball that's obviously thrown into this is not just the short week, but also our young men preparing for the real reason that they're here. And so we felt like it was better for them to have more time on Sunday, do basically a little bit more than our normal Monday today, which is what we did this morning. And then we've got to adjust our practice times a little bit on Tuesday and Wednesday based on some final schedules. So once you train your brain that this, you just get into the mode that, hey, this is Tuesday today. This is, what day is it, Greg?
Tuesday.
Thank you. Good. See, it's not that hard.
I'm listening.
How important was it to get to a different element of the offense? You guys ran the ball pretty well on Saturday, but you did face some opposition. How important was that at this point of the season for Tucker and his confidence to really let it loose in the process?
I've seen that out of him over the last 4 or 5 weeks. I just really feel like the game is starting to slow down, if that makes sense. He's seeing things more clearly. He's making more decisive decisions, and he's doing it much quicker. I think his accuracy continues to improve. I think his chemistry with the receivers continues to improve. And so certainly that's not something that we're afraid. We kind of opened it up a little bit against UC Davis as well. We know from time to time teams are going to work to take away what you do best. That's what good teams do. And then we've got to have enough diversity in our offense to be able to attack them. And I think that showed up. I think it's funny because on Sunday we were talking about this, that, gosh, we rushed for 203 yards and it just didn't feel like we did anything, and it's just kind of funny how we've become accustomed to these, really prolific rushing days. But it was nice to be able to add that 280 yards of passing.
Did it almost surprise you, how well Austin Peay played Sac State at Sac State, considering, you had seen Sac State before and what they could do? Yeah.
It's tournament, it's kind of like, you think about like if you compare it to the NCAA basketball tournament, there's always going to be teams that rise up and you're like, oh, you don't know a whole lot about them. They're from the Ohio Valley Conference. This is a Co-Big Sky champion team that they're playing. They got to travel across the country. So what does it come down to, in my personal opinion? Who's the most excited to play? Who's still interested in playing football and who's, taking a victory lap and I'll play this game, but I've already really turned my equipment in. And I just feel like that's what I saw an Austin Peay team that was the most excited to play on the field. And they played with more energy. They played with a higher level of execution. And I think in a tournament setting, that's so much of what you really can't quantify. You really can't say, well, you look at the tail of the tape and say, this is who these guys are on offense, defense, and the kicking game. But you can't really decide how bad a guy wants to continue to play and how important that team is to him. They got to go do it. And, as I tell our guys all the time, there's two types of teams in any setting like this. There's satisfied teams and there's hungry teams. And so you got to decide who you want to be. And I'm hopeful that our guys are going to be excited to play on Friday night.
And so how nice is it that you get to play at home again and, make them travel again?
Well, it does present a challenge for them. There's no question about it. And I don't know how to make this better. This is just the dynamics of this tournament. And I think it makes it one of the toughest tournaments to win there is, especially if you have to go on the road. And you can see why a team like a James Madison or a North Dakota State year in and year out, where they've got a top 2 seed and they're sitting at home in Fargo until the semis are over, it makes it a lot easier to win this tournament. And so I think that's why that's the thing that I learned from a year ago. If you can get yourself in a position where you can host a home game, well, maybe you get a chance to host another one. Being a 5 seed was more important than a 6 seed, because that meant that we've got an opportunity to host this home game, and just the way it played out. And I think the longer you do it, the better you get at it, I'm sure. And that's why teams, I think, like NDSU that does it every year, they've got a pretty good blueprint.
Do you think there was a turning point in the season for Tucker at any point?
I can think of a couple, but I really think that I think the UC Davis game was the game that gave him the most confidence, and from that point on, he's just kind of operated very, very smooth.
There's been some fly sweep motion that you guys didn't use a ton last week, but I know Tyron Marshall's been really heavily involved even in just the action of that motion. I've seen that a lot in other areas of football. What does that add to an offense? What do you think that does for your offense?
Yeah, you'll see it a lot from their offense as well, and it's all smoke and mirrors. You want them to defend the edge of the defense, but really what you're trying to do is affect the eyes of the defenders, right? You're trying to have them worried about, oh, there goes the fly sweep, and then here comes the inside run. And that's really part of the purpose. It's like, and not unlike a counter play. Oh, you run power, and then you run counter the other way. You're trying to kind of, deceive the opponent a little bit in terms of, hey, what you're seeing isn't really what's going on. And forcing them to defend the edge of the defense. Oftentimes, especially if you have a good inside run game, you can kind of stretch the defense horizontally, not with just formations, but also with that motion.
Coach, Lance McCutcheon just having an amazing third quarter there with 2 touchdowns. What did you see from him on Saturday?
Well, that's the guy that we need Lance to be, and we're hopeful that he would be. And he's had some inconsistencies in terms of his ability to make those big plays, and he made 2 huge plays in the third quarter, and I was really happy for him. Really happy for him. It was probably a little bit of a frustrating year for him. He's played a lot of football for us, and we ask him to do the dirty work of blocking on the edges in the run game and all that kind of stuff. And you catch a pass here or there, but to get an opportunity to be targeted in a really important game and a really important moment, and then to take advantage of your opportunity. And I'm hopeful that that's just going to give him more confidence moving forward, and that's going to give Tucker more confidence in him.
Over the past few weeks, just how valuable I think Jake Sessions has been stepping in.
Yeah. It's been awesome. Yeah, there's been next man up mentality. Connor Wood is, I think, one of the better offensive linemen in this league. Had he been healthy all year, I think he would have been a guy that I would have pushed for first team all conference. I think that's how talented he is. And for us to lose a guy of that caliber and really not miss a beat because Jake's ability to come in and own his role and do his job has been vitally important to our success.
Talk about the excitement that you have to have at this time of year to go out and play. And Coach Hudspeth has been able to turn that thing around really quickly. So when it comes to matching that, their belief this week, do you think that'll be a factor?
Yeah, I think it always is. Confidence is a huge part of postseason play. I'm trying to think of who the young man was, and he is a young guy. He was the head coach there, and now he's at Charlotte. And he was pretty successful in a short amount of time. And I think, Mark's stepped into a situation where they've gotten some transfers and got some guys going, but they got a senior quarterback. And you've got a lot of the guys, the pieces were in place. And I think one of the things that I really respect about the job he's done is he's been able to step in and take the talent that's there and then utilize them in a way that allows them to have success instead of saying, hey, this is the system we're going to run and we're going to do this, or trying to be somebody that he's not. I think that speaks to his ability to motivate young men and identify the talent and the skill set that they've got. And so they probably have a lot of confidence in Coach Hud and his ability to lead them, and that provides them with the confidence to go out. I mean, I'm sure they're saying, hey, it doesn't matter if it's snowing, doesn't matter if it's raining, we'll go play anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere, and that would be the mindset that I would take as well.
Going back to Jake Sessions and Tyrone Marshall, how important has depth been in the late run that you've made this year?
I think it's really been important for us. I think this, again, one of the things you kind of learn. Like you go to, so when you're at the Power 5 level, it's a body for a body. So you got 85 scholarships, right? And if a guy goes down or leaves, let's say he leaves the program, you just go get another body. Okay, here we're up against equivalencies, head counts. There's a lot of different things that, quite honestly, I think it's more like an NFL organization. You have to manage the roster more like you would an NFL roster, because it's like, okay, you got a salary cap. Well, that's our number of full scholarships, right? And then you've got this, how much money you can spend, okay? So you've got your available allotment, which is, the percentages that you divide up amongst these guys. And then you got to have your number, which is what, 104, 108, whatever your maximum roster number is. And the thing that I learned was that one of the most important jobs I have in May and June is to get to that number. So I have every single body available. And that even means going, okay, this guy's not going to be able to participate in fall camp. I'm not bringing this guy in because I need these legs right now. And what happens, those kids develop. You don't get better at playing football if you don't play football. And so the more football you play, the better you get. And now we're seeing guys that really weren't ready for prime time early in the season that are making an impact for us down this stretch. We've been doing this since August 1st. It seems like forever ago that we were in Lubbock, Texas, And so you have to be able to, and you got to have a little luck. I mean, we've had guys, Choate started the last 2 games for us. Choate didn't play until the Montana game. So wrap your head around that. We had an early season knee injury. The season is long enough that we get him back. Another kid, Joe McElroy from Missoula. This kid had a fractured ankle and had his knee cleaned out. He's back practicing today. So that's how long we've been doing this. And so, but yet in the interim, we've had enough bodies to be able to fill those holes. And so I think that's, again, one of the things I think I learned over my first couple of years coaching at this level.
What would you characterize the biggest strength of this team right now?
Word you said, team. They care about each other. They're not really interested in who gets credit, just what the scoreboard says at the end of the game. And I really believe that's the strength of our team, is our togetherness, our oneness, and I think that's shown with a lot of the things we talked about. I mean, you can go game by game, and who's the star of that game? Well, you could name different guys almost every week. We played the last 2 games, the most impactful games of our season, without our best player, and we played better as a team. And I think that's a testament to these young men.
Would you characterize Troy's injuries as the totality of all of them together, more than just one specific thing right now?
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. It's not really any one thing with him. I think he would push through any one thing. It's just kind of he's got a variety of things going on that none of them are surgical, which is positive, but some of them are going to take long.
With Troy being out, how important has Isaiah now been, and just what have you thought of him in his journey this season?
Yeah, another example of what we talked about earlier. A guy who was injured and not productive for a large part of the season, and then has really stepped his game up down the stretch and has been critical for us to be able to still have some of the elements that we had with Troy's plays on offense, to use just Isaiah to get that done. And you can say the same thing about Daniel Hardy and Ty Okada and Lavelle stepping in on defense. It doesn't take one guy. I mean, you're not going to replace that dude with one guy. That's what makes him so special, is that you don't have to sub for him. He can cover whoever they has, and he can beat whoever they has off the edge on. And so we've had to kind of use a couple of different guys, but all those guys have stepped up and own their role. And those three guys collectively have been productive to this day, that we really haven't missed Troy that much.
When it came to your timeline, like when you first got here, it was 4 years about what you were thinking in terms of, we get to a point where we're a seeded team and hosting play.
I don't know. I mean, I probably thought I had way more answers than I really had, and I think I've used this analogy before. When you get a job, it's like getting a present. You open it up, and it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be, and that's kind of how I would describe this. Like Montana State had a nice run here, and you're thinking from the outside looking in, we've got a pretty good thing going, but there were some things that we needed to fix, and once I realized that, I didn't know how fast it was going to happen. I knew there was not going to be a quick fix, because I couldn't go out and find, my failure, couldn't find that quarterback that we just plug in and go, and which can fix a lot of things. But what's ironic about it is I think this program is now built for the long haul because of it, and I don't know why it happened that way. I think a lot of it had to do with personal discipline, believe in what you're doing and don't deviate from the plan and don't listen to the outside noise, and just this is the right way, and we're gonna do it this way. And eventually, the roots start to take hold, and that's what's happened, I believe.
How many guys do you have graduating on Saturday?
I should probably know this. I know we've got we've got about, I think there's 5 or 6 guys that are mid-year grads. Yeah, Mitch being one of them. And then we've got, a handful of guys that'll be another semester here, but all of our guys are on track to graduate, which is, the big picture. So usually the winter graduation, we have about 5 to 6 guys, and I think that's probably about the number again. So, all right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Grab a slice.
Why would I start?
And hiring all positions. If you want an exciting job with great compensation and one where you can become an expert in the field, put your application in now at Selway Armory. You can apply in person at their new location at the corner of Jackrabbit and Baxter, or send in your application via email to employment@selwayarmory.com. That's employment@selwayarmory.com. Turn your passion into a profession with Selway Armory, Montana's firearms superstore.